good, lads and ladies and non-binary folk? My name is Chance Carter, and welcome to Shared Screen's weekly breakdown of The Last of Us by HBO. My name is Chance Carter. Joining me today is Alec Bobko. Alec, what did you think of this episode?
I absolutely loved it. I tweeted out after the end of this episode, like, we are truly watching a once-in-a-lifetime kind of show with this. Much like we were with the first game.
I agree. The pairing of Neil and the dude, I forget his name. I listened to the podcast with him on it, and I cannot remember his name. The guy from Chernobyl.
Craig Mazin.
Craig Mazin and Neil are just a match made in heaven. That voice from the ether that you heard is Le'Aaron Jess. Le'Aaron, how are you doing this week, and what did you think of the episode? Quick side note, Le'Aaron was having some technical difficulties, so she's just audio only. We get to hear the sultry sounds of her voice this week.
I'm just in the void. It's fine. I love this week's episode. It was a lovely break, but it still made me emotional. But like also I wasn't sobbing and debating whether life is living. So,
Awesome. You cut out the
10 out of 10 for me.
Okay, perfect. Love to hear it. It didn't make you cry and second guess humanity, so that's a good markings in Le'Aaron's book. Brett Jamerson, what did you think of this week's episode? Was it tasty enough for you?
Yeah, it was great. I think the biggest standouts for me were the set design and the cinematography. I was just really blown away by like how everything looked and was shot. There was that one scene where the camera was set against the sunset and they're riding the horse and stuff like that. And I thought it looked beautiful. And definitely a couple powerful like acting moments from a couple of the actors. So loved it, man. And I can't wait for next week.
Man, I know what moment you're talking about, and I'm so happy that they nailed it as hard as they did, because let me tell you what, I was worried about it. From the trailers, it looked amazing. Man, it hit so much harder. All right, so this was our spoiler-free impressions. We are about to head into spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled, we'll talk to you later. This is your final warning. All right, now we're in the Treehouse of Trust, how this spoiler business works, right? We are going to only talk about the show for this next section. We're only going to talk about the show and the game up to where this episode has taken us in the game. After we've done that and kind of theorized and shit, the very ending of this podcast, we're going to be, casting our, looking into our crystal ball, seeing what we can see of the future and casting our predictions and such. So I will make it pretty abundantly clear before we head into that section of the show. So if you don't want to be spoiled, you can dip on out. Also, if you've liked what you've heard so far and you want to hear more, please check out some of our other content, like our Ant-Man Spoilercast that has just gone up. Who was on that? I know Brett was on that. Alec, were you on that?
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about
Aaron was for a short time.
Oh, heck yeah.
Yeah, much like these kind of podcasts, we start off with the spoiler-free segment. So if you haven't seen it, you can still watch that part. But then, yeah, we get into that. We get into... towards the end of it, we actually look into a bit of further into Phase 5 and what this movie kind of how it kicks off and what we think could come.
Hell yeah, love to hear it. So if that interests you at all, please go check that out. Also, comment, like, subscribe. It helps us with the algorithm, and we greatly appreciate it. All right, now getting into
400 subs.
Yes, help us push
We're
to that
so close.
Sweet nasty 400. What are we at right now, Alec? Oh, we are 3 away.
397.
Oh my God. Okay, let's fucking get it, people. Just 3 people. We can't have Josh keep making these fake accounts. Okay, we've ran out of fake Josh accounts. All right, so now we are going to get into the plot synopsis of this episode. Before we get into the plot, though, does anybody on the panel kind of have any initial or just kind of blanket thoughts they wanted to talk about? Like before we got into the plot? For me personally, kind of like leading into this, I am really enjoying the differences that they've made in Joel and Ellie's relationship versus the game. It plays a lot more real to life, and how I feel like, you're always putting yourself in the protagonist's shoes. I feel like this is a lot more how I would handle it opposed to how the game would have handled it, with that kind of spicy situation of Joel not trusting himself. Did anybody on the panel kind of have anything they wanted to throw out there before we got into the plot synopsis?
That's the
Alrighty.
big thing. Did they walk all the way from Kansas City to Jackson?
I mean, it did take them 3 months, so I'm assuming, because 3 months is a hell of a long time. Like, they were sneaking around some shit and like really going out of their way to not be seen if it took them 3 months to get from, because Kansas is like on the other side of Colorado, and like isn't Wyoming like kitty corner to Colorado, so it's like a pretty straight shot. So they booked it in those 2 days that they were in that truck, and then they had a long way to fucking walk, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
Alrighty,
Yeah.
so getting into the plot synopsis and kind of jumping in head first, we initially set on the ending of last week's episode with the situation with Sam and Henry, and then we jumped to 3 months later. It is now winter. It is very much looking like Wyoming, very much setting the tone. We see this man going into his cabin. His wife's there. He already knows something's up. And he's just the cutest couple. He's like, "Why did you feed them?" And he's like, "Well, she didn't hurt me." And he's like, "Yeah, I can see that. Like, I have just like, I love the kind of serendipity nature of the situation where like he's essentially holding them hostage, but like nobody's taking it serious. He's not wanting to hurt these people, and they fucking know it. Like as soon as their girl comes out, Ellie comes down the stairs, just super happy to be like holding these people up. It was really, really cute. Really enjoyed that. Brett, did you have any thoughts as you see like Ellie super gung-ho to be a part of this little like stick up, figuring out where they're at and the map and everything?
Yeah. Well, first off, I was like, how have these people not been snuck up on before? Because like the security was a little lax. But
how did he get you? The gun's over there. Like very, very lazy answer. Sorry, continue.
And yeah, I think what's so cool about this story is like even simple things like the logistics of like they don't even know where they're at, like because you don't have GPS data tracking to show you where you're at. So you're like, I think we're in this area, but like, dude, like getting around back then, like I'm just glad I was born when I was born. Otherwise, I would have been lost. So
yeah,
thank God for Google Maps, man.
The amount of times I've been shown how to use a compass, I get proficient in using a compass, and then I don't touch it for like 2 years, and I forget fucking everything, bro. Like, God help me if I have a magnet in my backpack and just throwing that compass off, because I'm constantly going to be heading the wrong way. Like, no help for old Chance. So, Brett said, he's pointing. He's like, "Where the fuck are we?" And the guy, he tries to make it like we get a little bit of like the tell me where it's at, and if it doesn't match, I'm going to kill you, both of you. But like he's obviously not going to hurt these old people. They're not hurting anybody. And he points to the same spot, and they tell him about the Oogie Boogie men across the river. And he's like, okay. So then they start heading out, and we get introduced to a new aspect to Joel that we hadn't seen before. Starts having chest pains. Immediately in my mind, oh, this motherfucker's about to have a heart attack. We're going to get a heart attack by the end of this episode. Didn't. It was an anxiety attack, I feel like is more correct. His heart starts racing, and it feels like it's going to stop because he's so worried about what's to come with these. He knows what's out here with the cannibals and rapists and such, but Ellie has no idea, and he wants to keep her innocent. So we make camp before we cross the river. Now, Alec, I don't know about you, but I thought the fire was a bold choice. Thoughts? Like, if they think that the bad people are across the river and they just light up and they're fucking cooking this this rabbit that Ellie stole from, I thought that was kind of a brave decision to light a fire right there.
For sure. Like, I know they said they're kind of in a cave, but they could literally see the river from where they were staying. Like,
yeah,
just I don't want to say broad daylight, but essentially with the fire going, broad daylight.
Just very silly decision. They go to cross the river, and it's very spoopy the next morning. Oh, I almost forget. Ellie tries to take second watch. Joel's not having it. Obviously, this young lady wants to help. Joel falls asleep. She knows he's going to fall asleep, so she wakes up, takes second watch, and like the second he tries to get mad, she like runs down the list of things he would be mad about, and she's checked all the boxes. So he can't be mad, but he still wants her to wake him up anyway. We then cross the river. It's Oogie Boogie Spooky, And little fun thing, we see the dam. Hints to what we will later see. Now, Alec, when you saw that dam, did you think, thank God Pedro Pascal doesn't have to jump in to go fucking get a goddamn pallet so
Oh my
Ellie can swim across?
Gosh. Oh my goodness.
Because I certainly
Flashbacks to
was.
that game.
Yeah. I was waiting for him to get the Diablo pistol at the park ranger's
Oh,
truck,
yeah.
right, on that road that
Yep.
they were standing on
Yep.
looking at the dam. I do like the kind of call out about the electricity, kind of signaling that this is different out here. Not as much going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we, not too much further after this, we see the dam. They're walking, and immediately we get these horsemen, and they hold them up. They bring out their dog. You better not be infected, and it's a very tense moment. Joel obviously isn't infected, and then it goes to Ellie. She's not infected, and in fact, the dog sees something, but then she's petting him, loving on him, and he can't help but just give her some kisses on the face. And I love a good doggo. They ask, I forget the leader's name. Tommy's.
I'm sorry to chime
spouse.
in here.
What's up?
However, I kind of wanted to see the dog rip somebody apart. Not Ellie, but like I love watching working dogs, like not even just for people. You've ever seen a sheepdog actually go after a predator coming for the flock? It's the craziest shit on the planet. And I was like, I want to see this dog like be the best boy and just rip someone to pieces.
I feel like we're gonna see this best boy, I hope, in episodes to come if we're ever back in Jackson, because the fact that it's like the gun in the first act goes off in the third. We've seen the gun now. When's the third act we get to see him go off? Really just tear into somebody like they're a Raider cheeseburger. I love that out of nowhere. Liaren, the sweetest one out of all of us, was like, I could have used some death. I just wanted to see
Love
some
it. There's a
carnage.
show on A&E where like people bring their police dogs to like show off how good they are at their job, and I love it. Like I'm not even fucking ACAB and all that crap, but like watching police dogs just attack a man in a full plush suit and like the way it's so, I love it.
All right, we're all into different
They
things.
just seem to be having a good time. I don't know.
I have trained with those cop dogs and let one take me down, and let me tell you what, you feel like you're tough, and then little Malinois takes you down, and then you feel very, very scared of those dogs when you see them in the airport the next time. So I forget the leader of Tommy's group's name. It's Tommy's spouse. What is her name? I forget.
Maria.
Maria. I was going to say Claire, but it's Maria. So Maria, who are you? And he says Joel. And I think she knows in that moment, and they take him back to their camp. And sure as shit, Joel walks in, sees Tommy. Tommy, I was coming to save you. Very heart-touching moment. They kind of, get to hang out a little bit. Now, Liaren, you haven't played the game, so you don't know or I guess you don't remember as well, because you said that you've watched playthroughs of the initial meeting of Tommy at the dam. Do you remember any of that at all?
No.
Okay.
And like I said to Alec and like to the listeners, I'm going to dip out when you guys start talking about future game spoilers, because I'm so into the show that I don't want spoilers anymore.
Heck yeah. Okay, perfect.
But yeah, I have no memory.
So who of us I personally liked this introduction a lot more than
Stuff
in the game. What's that? Sorry.
Line where people were like, I like that they changed this, and I was like,
You're cutting out real badly, Aaron. Can you come again?
no. I was seeing a lot of people tweeting, being like, oh, they changed this, but I liked it, and I was like, I don't know what they're talking about.
So, okay, well, they were talking about
It's not important. It's not important. Continue.
So for Brett and Alec, what did you make of this? Because I personally liked it a lot more. I felt like it was a lot more heart touching. I do feel like we needed the combat sequence of the dam in the game, but just for me, like kind of getting this emotional moment followed by immediately them getting to feed them kind of showed them some hospitality. Where were your guys' minds with this when it was kind of showing up?
For me, it's been long enough since I played the game that I didn't quite remember all the details of when they met. I remember they had the whole sequence in the dam and all that, and getting it up and running. But to me, I really enjoyed this. Like like I said, just that heartfelt reunion. Tommy literally just dropping what he was doing, what he was helping that guy with.
Mm-hmm.
So like, who knows what they were actually
Just a
like,
2x4 right on that guy's foot.
right? Yeah. So
Brett, what did you?
I really enjoyed it. So
Heck yeah, Brett, what did you think of this this encounter?
Yeah. Like when I was watching it tonight, kind of like what I think I said. I don't know if it was episode 1 or 2, but like, not that I didn't like it, but I kind of missed the pacing of the game, where there's, like walking and conversation, and then combat, and then story beat moments, and again, it's a TV show, so it's got to be different, but all of it being streamlined into like one, like because all of these events were like kind of a little spread apart
Yeah,
in the game.
2 or 3
And
hours
so,
kind of area, and now it's like 30 minutes of screen time.
right, yeah. So not that I prefer the game version, but I just like, I don't know. It's just like I'm having what's it, dissonance, like just having a struggle with like separating the game from the show. But I'm loving both. It's just like,
You're
okay, like,
almost getting a little bit of whiplash because they're going through things so quickly. When from our recollection, it took us a lot longer to get through these sequences.
yeah, like, and I'm gonna make a comparison to like House of the Dragon or Game of Thrones or any other adapted work. Like, for those, like, I always would watch the show first before I like would get into the source material, only because like I think I prefer getting into things like unfettered and having no attachment to like the way a story is told, and then taking it as it is for the show or whatever, and then going back and seeing how it compares, and seeing it, usually with books it's more expanded. So yeah, it's just interesting to, this is like one of the first times I've really experienced that, because like I always would watch something before I go back to like a book or whatever. So
First time
Yeah,
getting to
I'm-
see the source material first.
I know, yeah.
yeah, I made that mistake with Ready Player One, because I remember I
Oh,
read that,
gosh.
I heard that was getting made into a movie, and I happened to read the book or listen to the audiobook,
Mhm.
and it was a ways before the movie came out. But literally, as soon as the movie came out, I saw it, and it was like, oh, that's different, that's different, that's different. Like, I thought because it was like a year and a half since I had read the book. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe that's a long enough time that I won't remember, but it was just one of those things. Oh, that's different, that's different, that's different. Like,
I've
Mhm.
lucked out. The two that are for me is Lord of the Rings, and then I forget the second one, but like they're both like spot on, kind of very in line. So I haven't had a lot of like bad adaptations in my life. But what about you, Laren? Do you have any bad adaptations?
I mean, I was a teenage girl in the boom of IA dystopia, so like I've experienced the gambit, I would say.
You said
From the Hunger Games,
Twilight-topia?
which is a
Okay.
really good
Yep.
adaptation of a great book series. Yeah, like all that kind of crap, like that
Hunger
YA
Games is a
dystopia,
really good-
Twilight, love triangle shit.
I would say Hunger Games also pretty much nailed it, like going over. I don't know about Twilight.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
I never read those books, but
Dude, Coldplay at the end of Catching Fire, bro.
God.
Tears, bro. Tears, bro. I was crying.
He's so good.
I was crying in the club,
remembering
bro.
this shit. You
Yeah, I
can't.
was crying.
have you seen this man play the Coldplay Hurdle?
No, but I know he's like that one motherfucker that does like the geolocating thing, and he's a super. That's Brett with
I
anything
did-
that has to do with Django Fett or fucking Coldplay, or that one
Right.
fake ass motherfucking Captain America. I forget his
Wow, bro. He's on the board. All right.
name. I know. I just like giving you shit. I actually really like him now. Removed from Captain. It doesn't matter. We're getting derailed really bad. All right, so. Ellie is flapping her jowls, talking shit, and nobody's used to this, like a 14-year-old being like, I'm gonna kind of equate her to having the mouth of like a private first class in the army. Like she is just like throwing it out there. Tommy is, trying to smooth things over. Joel wants to talk, just family. Tommy's like, well, come to find out, Maria's my wife, bitch. So like, this is our family now, and he's a little taken aback by it. Doesn't really like it. Also, when Tommy and Joel are hugging, Ellie looks a little jelly. Did anybody else notice that, or was that just me?
Mm-mm.
She's
No, I
looking at him like a weird way,
noticed.
like, that's my man. Maybe it was just me. Anyway,
No, I'm trying to scream from the void that I also felt her jealousy.
okay, so it wasn't just me. Okay, perfect. I love it. I felt like I was reading too much into things. So then Tommy takes him on a little tour of Jackson. And he's like, "You notice anything different about this place?" Ellie, yeah, it fucking works. Like just immediately
Yeah.
with that mouth. I fucking love it. And she's like, "Is this what communism is?" And Tommy and Joel are like, "No." And then Maria's like, "Yes, we live in a commune and this is communism." And they both just like have a really hard time with it. And I love it. Tommy and Joel go to the bar, take a drink, and I forget, is this where they start having a conversation? And I remember Joel gets mad at Tommy and leaves. But is this where he says that he needs to take him, or he needs Tommy to take Ellie, or is that at the house later?
No, that's like in the workshop later.
This is when he says that he's gonna be a dad because
Correct.
Joel is trying to recruit him to take Ellie to Colorado
To
University.
like help him take her.
Yes, and he doesn't want to. He's like, I need to be a good dad. And then it's like, we'll see how it works out type of situation. They get mad, kind of have a little spat, and Joel storms off. And he leaves and immediately has a heart problem again. Now, kind of future spoilers for later in the episode. I 100% thought that he was going to have a heart attack as soon as they left, like got out of no return. Like they get halfway to Colorado University and then he has a heart attack and that's what takes him out instead of getting stabbed. Really like that kind of switch in direction because I feel like they did that on purpose. Maybe it's just me. But I digest. Ellie we flash over to the house. Ellie's taking a shower. She comes out and there's a sack of clothes and it says, "I'm in the house across the street." And there's the Diva Cup scene, to which I laughed super hard because I could have sworn Leanne said something about a Diva Cup in episode 3, but I could be wrong. What's up, Alec?
Just real quick, like when you talked about Joel going outside and having that another anxiety attack, like that part where he thinks he sees his daughter again.
Yeah. That is a very touching moment. I am kind of sad I forgot that was at that moment. I couldn't remember that took place, but I
Yeah,
do.
But like,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say they touched on it at the kind of the behind the scenes portion at the end of the episode, and it was just cool. Like I didn't put together the the fact that they put that there to make it look like that it was his daughter, and that his daughter had a daughter essentially.
Like this is
Yeah.
what like my life would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like lost time, like what she would have been like 30 something at this point. Yeah, with the family or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah.
I do think it's kind of it's a moment where I think Joel gets scared because he realizes how much he's been hurt by Sarah's passing, and it kind of leads to his reaction to Ellie later in this episode when he initially says no and he's gonna have Tommy take her. So Ellie goes across the street, she gets a haircut and then goes to a movie. And Maria kind of is like, "Yo, Joel's a piece of shit, be careful." And Ellie like really has his back in that moment. And I just was sitting there thinking like, Maria, you have known this girl for all of like a half hour maybe, and you're already talking shit on the dude that took her across the country. Like, I don't know. Read the room a little bit. Like, this isn't going to go over well. You can warn her, but by like straight up saying, anyway, I died.
But does she know that they came all the way from Boston?
I don't think so. But I mean, she knew he was in Boston, so she knows that Tommy traveled the long way to get there. I also
Gotcha.
like that how it's kind of implied that Maria was the reason Tommy stopped responding. And it really kind of
Mm.
plants the seeds for why Maria and Joel just do not get along. Maria, I understand where she's coming from, trying to protect her husband from a toxic brother is what she feels like, and Joel just trying to look out for his brothers, getting pissed off at her for trying to cut him off. So then we cut over to Joel with these boots. Now, anybody else see this scene with like the workbenches and shit and be like, yo, this is the shout out to like all of the workbenches I had to stop at all these games, and I never had enough fucking gun parts to upgrade my guns. Like without
Oh yeah.
without fail, always like 5 or 10 short. And then there's like 5 or 10 like as soon as you like get past a point, you can't come back. Anyway, I digest.
Yep. All the time.
I do love how in the remake, I don't know if it was this way in the original game, but once you upgrade certain components of your gun, like if you're upgrading the fire rate on the Diablo pistol, he'll like replace the old broken pistol with like the new slates. And like eventually the guns just look like brand new, like and super tactical and shit. Love that. Anyway.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I could wax poetic about that game all day, but we got to keep going. So Joel has bad shoes. Tommy sits down. Joel is like, look, she is immune. And he's like, start from the beginning. And he starts to tell Tommy about all of it as we see Ellie get up and leave. And she makes it to the house right as Joel is breaking down and being like, I can't take her. I'm too old. Which I thought was like, bitch, it's cold outside. That's why you feel like you're too old, because you've been going through Wyoming in the winter. Like, come on, you're not that old. And he says like, will you take her? I can't. Like, I can't do this. Like, if she dies, it's gonna be the end of me. And I don't know about the rest of the panel, but I really liked this take of him understanding his weaknesses and understanding that like he has a hard time actually being able to save people, and he doesn't want to fail in this. And he's seen Tommy save a whole town, so Tommy's being able to save people. I wonder if this kind of hit you guys in the same way, where I was really appreciative of Joel's kind of where he was coming from in the show versus the game. I know, Brett, you said you had a lot of whiplash kind of with the breakneck pace that they're going through things. Was this something that you kind of remember from the game, or what were your feelings about kind of this scene and how it was handled versus the game?
Yeah, I think I think they're being a little more heavy-handed with like the way like Joel, like on Joel's side of the relationship with how he cares about Ellie. And again, that's like fine because it's a TV show, so you have less time. You have to just be way more direct. And with a game, like you have to show it, and you can't just tell it. Like,
Do you
tell
feel
it
like
through,
they're being too heavy-handed with it, or do you feel like it's just because they're translating it to this medium, so they have to make it kind of be said more times?
Yeah, I think part of the answer is like it's hard to say until we see the full product. Just based off of like the story beats and how they're laid out in the game. Oh yeah, I don't want to like talk about spoilers, like, but like, yeah, it'll just like I don't know if I can fully answer that yet.
Okay.
Because when this season concludes, we'll see how the build up leads to everything. So
all the little pieces that they've been making this yellow brick road, what it's like at the end of it.
Yeah.
Alec, what did you think about the decision to not have Ellie run away and have the confrontation come just kind of like more naturally in the house that they had been assigned? Because in the game, she runs away and you have to go chase her and you have to kill a bunch of things. And she's at a ranch quite a bit of ways away. What were your thoughts on them kind of taking that part out and then combining in the diary scene, which is one of my favorite scenes? I love this scene, but what were your thoughts about
same.
that?
I actually thought it was a really great choice. Just like we've kind of said in many of these episodes, like, you know, that gotta trim the fat for this show, for this adaptation. So that was one of those segments. Instead of her running, you know, away to some house in the middle of nowhere, you just have her run back to the house, and you have the diary right there, and can, you know, kind of kill two birds with one stone.
Heck yeah.
Wait, I have a question.
What's up?
It's probably super easy, like, to be answered, but like, she's walking out in like the middle of the like promenade or whatever,
Mhm.
and they're in like some shop. Like maybe I like looked away to grab like my coffee or something, but like I didn't see her obviously like listening in on them. Maybe there was like a brief like shot, but like
I was in
I
a
saw her
similar
walk.
situation, and I briefly just barely saw her like make it to like she had walked off and she was like standing in front of the shop that they were at. So that's where I think that they were insinuating that she could then hear what they were
Mm.
saying and she was listening in. But it was like only like a very brief scene or just cut
Yeah.
to her.
Okay, yeah, that's what
It
I.
was kind
And
of
when
one of those implied, like they show her there, like right there, but they don't.
Because then they show her
Actually.
like walking off, right? Kind of storming
Yep.
off afterwards. Okay.
okay, yeah, like I must have missed like one of the little shots. So I was like, okay, like I mean, it was like, hey, I heard you. So I was like, okay, like whatever. But I was like, did I miss like the listening in? Like,
the cup to the no, there wasn't a cup to the door scene where she was trying to listen in, like the empty cup up to the door list. Anyway, dumb thing I just had pop into my head. So then we have Joel go back and he makes it to the house. He goes into Ellie's room. He's calling for her, can't find her. And he walks into the room and he hears Ellie reciting from this journal. And it's something about like what shoes to wear, the boys they like. This all seems like so stupid in comparison to like what we're going through currently.
It was the boys, movies, and what shirt goes with what skirt.
Yep.
Was that all they had to worry about? Like,
And
well,
go ahead.
did you see the?
They are
did you
very
see-
important to us when we're small.
But it's just like that.
In defense of preteen girls, like
I just also think it's such a like juxtaposition of like the exact age where this would be what she is worried about. She cannot understand for the life of her how anybody could feel this way because of like the differences in situations. And that's what I've always really liked about this scene is like she like, and it's kind of riddled more throughout the game of her just like not understanding like how we live in this day and age. Like there's a scene before they make it into the hotel in the game where he kind of explains supermodels to her and she's like, I thought you guys had a lot of food in your time. And she just doesn't get why like people weren't like just taking care of themselves when they had the ability to. She then goes into, look, I know Sarah, and then Pedro Pascal immediately says don't. And in that moment I was like, oh, this scene is going to be perfect. Because like just with him walking in being very similar, and I'm getting cold chills just talking about this. So then she kind of has this moment where she's like, I'm not Sarah. And he's like, damn right you're not. And she's like, everybody in my life, blah, blah, blah. I've lost everybody except for you. No, he says, you don't know what loss is. And then she says that, right? Or did I get it conflated?
Yep.
Either way, probably my favorite scene from the entire game is this moment. And it kind of, her ending it with like everybody except for you, and she shoves him. And I feel like that's the moment where it starts to click with him of like, oh, despite what I feel, she knows my shortcomings and she still is wanting to hang around. I don't know if you guys kind of got that same vibe because, he had already gotten Tommy to like say yes. Tommy's taking her at this point, and I feel like this is when the second guessing starts to happen. Was that your guys' read on the situation, or what did you think of this scene in comparison to the game?
For me, I thought it was that moment. It was more important for Ellie, I thought, in terms of like kind of accepting him as like a father figure, just because like she had said, everybody that she had gotten close with has either died or left her.
Mm-hmm.
So Joel being there, I mean, we're 4 months into this, trek, and it's like to be that close to somebody, that she had never had a connection with that before in her life.
One other person, but like she says in the speech, they've all died or they've all left.
Exactly.
Did you? So remind me, who has played Left Behind? Brett, you had played it, and Alec, you hadn't, or both of you have played it.
I have, yeah.
And you have as well, Brett. I won't spoil anything, so that way Leanne doesn't know what next episode is about. But it is maybe one of the. It's definitely going to be a bottle episode, and judging from the footage, we can get into it later, but prepare yourself, Liaren. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yes.
It's gonna.
Oh, trust me, I know it comes in the DLC, and I'm not excited.
Oh no. I resent, but I'm also glad that you know what's happening because it makes it a little bit easier. So then, just the moment he looks up and says, "You don't know what loss is." That was a moment in the trailer where like I got goosebumps and I was like, "This is something special," and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
so glad it hit the same way in the show.
If not
Mhm.
harder.
Like,
Like,
right?
that full scene.
Yeah, because I feel like with the the video game, even with the remake, it can only purvey so much emotion, and it is like for those of you who haven't played it, it is the cutting edge of technology when it comes to mocap and facial features. The company who makes this games is, in my opinion, one of the best in the business. Period, bar none. They make some of the best looking games.
Mhm.
But just the way that you're able to see so much more detail in Pedro and Bella's performance, I do almost agree with you now that you've said that this may actually be better just because there is so much more raw emotion.
Mhm.
I'd be
It's,
interested.
it's Daddy Pedro too.
Our
You
slutty
can't go
daddy
wrong.
Pedro. I would be interested to know what the community thinks. If you've made it in this long, please leave us a comment. Let us know if you prefer this this version of the "you don't know what loss is" scene versus the game, and why. Because I feel like we've made a pretty strong case for why it may be better, but I'd love to hear why you maybe think the game is better, or maybe different aspects of why you may think the show is better. So comment down below. Help us with that algo. The next morning, Ellie's all packed up, ready to go. Tommy comes in. They go down to the stables, and wouldn't you know, that old scoundrel Joel, he's like, "I'm coming to steal a horse." And they're like, "Why?" And before he can even finish explaining, he's like, "Look, I still think Tom," and she's like, just throws the bag in his arms. He already knows she's going to pick him. And, there's always a place for you here. And he's like, "I'm counting on it." I love that like, we know when this is over, they're going to come back to this town that is actually working and
Well-
the closest to what we have now. What's up, Alec?
And I was gonna say, there's like a quick line that Joel had. It's like, came down here to steal this horse, but I've been here for 30 minutes.
See, I couldn't remember exactly what the line is. Thank you so much for remembering it, because so many of these like little one-liners hit so well. Was that because I really felt like that was an endearing moment of Joel in his own way coming to Ellie. Was that kind of what you took from this situation
Oh,
of
yeah.
like, this is the best I can show affection, and she takes it. She just
Oh, yeah.
snatches it
Yep.
like she's Kirby.
Like he knew that he couldn't just leave her like that,
Mhm.
having come this whole way.
Yeah. And especially, I wonder how much of it is the guilt of what he's put her through and kind of his shortcomings, making, like, because he does blame himself for her having to kill. I wonder if he's like, "Look, I can't have made these mistakes and then leave her like this, because then I will have been failing her twice or failing her more than I already have." And I love how, they get going, and immediately there's this scene of him teaching her how to shoot. And I have had this exact situation with my father, and so this hit really close to me of like I was raised in a more Western lifestyle, kind of in an area close, not in Wyoming, but a similar environment to, my dad, when I was a little bit younger than this, showing me how to use the rifle, to the flinching thing. Like, I really enjoyed this scene. I do also appreciate how Tommy had been talking up his rifle, his 308, which is a really nice hunting rifle, and that he had gotten a variable zoom scope on it. I'm hoping that'll come back in episode 8, but we will see. And he immediately gives it to Joel, and he's like, "Yeah." Joel's like, tries to make excuses. He's like, "I already gave you my fucking rifle. Get out of here." So then they make it down to Colorado University in 5 days. And as they're going through the campus, they see the monkeys, and it is so perfectly adapted. And just another scene where they took a hour-long section of the game where you're just wandering through this university, condense it down to 30 seconds. But they're the most perfect encapsulation of realizing slowly that the fireflies aren't here. They make it into the science lab. There's a packing list. There's papers everywhere, but Joel finds the packing list, and he's like, they left. They hear a noise, right? Now, I kind of knew where they were going, that it's a monkey in the office. Did anybody think otherwise? Did y'all think that there was infected, that maybe they were going to get chased out already before finding about Salt Lake? Where were your guys' minds? Because it really, there might have been a bloater around the corner. Brett, were you getting that feeling, or did you know that it was the monkey banging on shit?
Man, yeah, I didn't remember this part as much from when I last played the game. There are infected in the game, right? And
Yes, there is a bloater in this section. That's why I specifically brought that up, because you have to deal with the bloater in one of the dorms as you're going through.
Gotcha. Yeah, like it just made sense to to streamline it. But yeah, I felt it, that I was like, okay, like they're getting through all this, like like you could definitely feel like, hey, we have to get to this point at the end of this episode by this. So like I definitely felt like this is like the pacing of it for sure.
So, Brett, Liaren, Liaren, you weren't here last week when we were theorizing about what was to come, but I had theories, and then Jordan came in and he's like, no, this is how they're going to play it, and it was exactly how they played it this episode. So, tip of the hat to Jordan. When we meet up, I owe that motherfucker a beer, because I was like, nah, that's not how they're going to do it, and then it's like, yeah, they are, and that's how they did it. So, we make it into the office, and in the game, it's a recording of the last doctor there, and he gets bitten by one of these monkeys. Come to find out, these monkeys have cordyceps. Good thing Ellie didn't get too close to her first monkey, otherwise would have got that monkeypox. And instead, they see a map that really kind of points in one place. There's a bunch of trade routes, and it all points to Salt Lake City. So I really like how the game continues to integrate the pickups that you would get in the game to kind of direct or give more backstory, and they're kind of sprinkling them naturally throughout the show, and they're just killing it. Alec, are you getting the same kind of feelings as I am? That, because we, I believe it was in last week's episode with Ish, and the way that they're integrating these kind of side stories in. Are you also or do you think that they could do a better job?
I think they're doing it perfectly.
Heck
or
yeah.
dang near perfectly, just because, I mean, even like, all the notes with Frank, like you said, with Ish, and then now this, the Fireflies heading to Salt Lake, like, it's would be hard to literally just have Joel and Alec picking up notes and, sitting there watching them read it or read it aloud.
Yeah.
Like, it worked at the end with, Bill's note,
Mm-hmm.
Being how that went out, but you can't have that being every 5 minutes in the show.
Yeah. And the reason I bring this up is because some people online, they're commenting, and they would just have Joel read out the note as like B-roll of them like continuing to search. And I just think that people are asking too much of the show. This is as good as it's gonna get, because this is perfect as an adaptation goes, in my opinion.
I would love to have a scene though of Joel just like
kneeling,
opening drawers and just his arm like snapping backwards, grabbing something.
It was like a breakthrough in gaming, how like he would actually pick it up, but then when you started to like actually go through your rooms quick, it very quickly broke the game into what Alec's talking about, of Joel turning into a two-legged spider and he's just crawling around. Looks like something out of The Conjuring. So we look outside, we see some raiders. Joel's like, all right, let's slip out the back. They make it all the way to the horse. Ellie says, look out, Joel. Joel turns around, ducks. The bat breaks on a tree. Joel wrestles this guy, snaps his neck, realizes he's been stabbed with the bat, pulls it out, which I have my EMT basic certification. You don't pull out something when you've been stabbed, because then you're going to bleed to death. That's like
I was so mad that he pulled that out, because
Immediately.
like Joel knows better than to pull out a fucking, like, I feel like that's like getting stabbed like 101. Like everybody, I feel like now knows, like, you don't pull out something when you get stabbed. Like at this point, Joel would know that. Like, especially in your stomach, you hit major organs, my guy. I don't know what ones, but you hit some of them.
Well, luckily where it hit, I'm pretty sure, is just like where your intestinal tract is. It doesn't matter. A gut shot is a painful way to die, and you just made it a lot easier to die. I do think it is kind of human nature though to like see something like that and in shock like go to yank it out. But also I'm right
Mhm.
there with you, Lear, and like he fucking knows. Like how long has he been doing this shit? 20 years? He fucking knows. So Ellie, Joel get away from East Colorado University, and Joel immediately keels over and Ellie starts to sob, and it makes me very excited for next episode to see where this goes, because this is at the point in the game a very good point. I'll put it that way. So with that,
Yep.
any final words before we head into our future spoiler section? Liaren, I know you said you wanted to dip out. Did you have anything for the kind people before you go? Any final thoughts on this episode?
I really like this episode. It was a nice breather going into what I know is going to be a very emotional thing. My parents were at a dinner party, so I do not have their review at this moment, but I'm going to tweet it out tomorrow after I watch the episode again with them.
Look out for that, because
And beyond that,
Liaren's parents leave the best reviews, specifically your mother. Just the most insightful reviews.
I love it so much.
Alrighty.
All right, bye, guys.
Have a good rest of your evening, Liaren, and thank you for joining us.
See ya.
All right, we are in the Treehouse of Trust even further. For those of you who may have skipped ahead, we are going to talk future spoilers, all spoilers throughout the game. I would rather not talk about Salt Lake a super lot, but I mean, we're so close, we can kind of talk about whatever. So, with that being said, if you don't know and you don't want to know, please leave. If you do want to know, welcome to the next layer. We are diving in further. So I am very excited for next week's episode being Left Behind. This is an episode that I think I have been looking forward to the most, because from the first trailer we kind of saw the merry-go-round. I did like how they like very much kind of set it as more of a thriller mood in the next on at the end of this week's episode, for those of us who know how heart-wrenching the story actually is. So that kind of like, we kind of know what every episode after this is going to be, right? Like,
So
next week we get
7 is Left Behind.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Then was it? So that's 7. 8 is gonna be what, the cannibals and David.
Yep, David's Town.
And then Salt Lake.
Yep. Then the finale, which I believe this is the last long episode. I believe the rest of the season is sub an hour, correct?
Yeah.
Because the
believe
last
so.
episode is only like 43 minutes, which actually
Something
sounds
like that,
perfect
yeah.
for that section, if I'm being honest.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because that's mostly, at least in the game, mostly gunfighting. Or gunfights.
Yeah. Brett, do you think we're going to get the drafts?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Iconic scene.
We
If they don't, people will riot.
we damn well better. Have I told the story about the giraffes on this podcast? I'll save it for the episode if I have. About me working on the giraffes at the Salt Lake Zoo.
Sound doesn't ring a bell.
All right. Well, that's your teaser for the last episode. So if you want to find out my connection to these giraffes, tune in. What were you saying, Brett? Sorry.
Yeah, I wonder. I wonder if there's going to be any connective tissue to the current storyline when they go back in time with Left Behind.
So in my mind, they're going to start it kind of like how they did Bill and Frank's episode, where the beginning of the episode is going to be her pulling, and it's going to play like Left Behind did, where it's going to be her pulling Joel into this mall where they're hiding out, and then she's going to start thinking as she's looking for the medicine to help Joel about her past, and then from then forth it's going to be kind of flashbacks of her life, and then the end of the episode will start with her kind of getting in trouble with the Henry, was that his name? No, David's group. Does that make sense to you, Brett? Or are you tracking so far?
Yeah. Because I think Joel's going to be out of commission next week. And so that makes sense.
And man, let me tell you, like the first time or actually the only time I played through Left Behind, I did it, I think in the lead up to part 2, and just a nice little Sunday morning, 3-4 hours, just getting through that. So it's a good time. So after next week's episode, I suggest if anybody hasn't played through Left Behind, because you can just play that right out the jump.
Yeah, it is a separate piece of content, so you don't need to make it to the section in the game where it takes place. You can just jump in and play it, like Alex said. Although, in my playthroughs, I love to stop when Joel gets impaled on the rebar and he gets hurt.
Oh,
And then I play Left Behind, and then I go back. And
Okay.
I love playing it
Let
that
me-
way because that's canonically how it happens, but I digest.
exactly. I'll say I do love that he didn't actually get just straight up impaled with rebar, because
yes.
that is just in the game. That is just, ugh.
Yeah. Well, also, I believe he gets stabbed in the other side, and I'm pretty sure there's something on
Because
the...
he's like thrown off a ledge.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure
And
it's in
that's
his
how-
left side, and I'm pretty sure your kidney's there. And so I'm wondering if they changed it to be a less fatal thing to a less fatal side to make sure
Gotcha,
that
makes
it's
sense.
something he could survive, because I always noticed just the way it was not as, like, because he would have broken his back from that fall too, like in the game. Like, he
Oh, yeah.
falls a minute before
It's-
he gets impaled
It is a literal story
Yeah.
that he falls.
directly onto his back on a piece of rebar. All right.
And if you haven't seen rebar, that is some thick stuff. So it is.
Especially concrete rebar. That's fucked me up more times than I care to admit. As a rowdy youth, I'll say, messing on construction sites. Do you guys have any future kind of predictions that you want to make before we head out? Go ahead, Alec.
So I don't. Keen-eyed viewers, I think, when they were in Jackson. First of all, I will say, Jackson looks like it was ripped straight out from the game. Like,
And they really filmed in Jackson, which is even cooler.
mhm.
Oh, okay.
And like it was, to me, it's like that saloon and all that. Like
Mhm.
it looked straight like how it does. Honestly, kind of like in part 2.
Yeah. Well, we don't see it
Um,
in part 1. We only see the outside. We never see inside. And so I do like it's
Right.
it's giving a lot of part 2 vibes for sure.
And
Mhm.
speaking of part 2, when in that scene where they're having the meal, I think that was Dina.
It was 100% Dina.
Yeah.
So,
So-
funny aside, quick kind of connection. The Shannon Woodward, the actress who plays Dina in the
Mhm.
games, is actually who connected Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann together and got the show made, because it was going to be
Oh.
a movie before and it failed until Neil saw Chernobyl, and then he hit up Craig Mazin and is like, let's make something. And Craig had actually been trying to make The Last of Us, but because it was already being made into a movie, he got told no. And so when it got shut down, that's when everything kind of aligned. And God, sometimes we have to be living in a simulation for that shit to have worked out.
Right?
That the actress who plays Dina is the one that connects like the two most perfect like power duo. I can't with this. Did you have any last predictions or thoughts before we head out, Brett?
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot my shot here, and I'm gonna say that bully girl in the flashback is Abby, because the way they're doing the show and they're connecting so many of the threads together,
It did kind of look like Abby. I'm not gonna lie.
probably not. I'm like definitely wrong, but like they've connected so many threads in
I've-
this game already, tighter than it was in the game, and so I think it would be, what happens with Last of Us Part 2, I think it would hit more if it was a character that the characters knew already a little bit versus some random, group and
Mhm.
lady that just comes in, right? So
I
don't
can
know.
see it.
I don't know.
That's not
I don't
crazy.
know.
I'm kind of buying into this.
I
Like,
don't agree with it, but I do like the idea that all of these higher ups at the Fireflies just gave their kids up for adoption and gave them to Fedra because they knew Fedra would like take care of them and then like would raise them, and just because of how Marlene did it with Ellie, and then to have like the doctor put in Abby at the same school being like, hey, you did it, and she's safe, so I'm gonna do it.
The more
It's a good theory, because like what can we theorize about a story we already know? Because I do feel like that's something that they would change in this world. That would make sense,
could
because
be
like you said, it
more,
is way
like,
more connected.
militant.
Yeah,
I
and it would make sense why she's so ripped, because like being raised in a military environment, she's going to appreciate physical form in a certain aspect, right? And so, and the way that Abby looks in part 2 of the game, she does look like a girl. Like, she looks like women that I have seen overseas who takes fitness seriously.
I just wonder how they're gonna tie in this other plot threads. Yeah, because they've kind of like interwoven it more close knit so far.
I'm wondering if we're gonna find out who Abby's actress is in the finale because I'm assuming we're gonna get more of Joel like walking around the hospital before everything pops off. So maybe we actually get the introduction to Abby then, and maybe Ellie isn't knocked out the whole time. There's a lot of interesting things. That's another thing. Do we think it's going to play out the same way where Ellie gets knocked out and then she doesn't have an opportunity? Because I feel like that puts the question of is the biggest spoiler of the show. I'm about to say it, so please shut the fuck up and leave if you don't want to. Is Joel the bad guy? If she's awake and she says she wants to and he still says no, that definitively, it doesn't make it a question anymore. Her being knocked out and not having a say is what gives him the modus operandi to do what he does. So if do we think she's going to get knocked out the whole time?
I think she will be, because they made another change in this episode when he's like, you have a choice, and then she makes her choice. And
that is a big thing in the game, that she doesn't have a choice. That's why he rescues her.
Right. So they made that change in the show that she chooses Joel again, and then it would just make it again. They're kind of interweaving everything a little tighter here, where at the end, Joel like takes away like her agency and her choice when he makes his decision. So
makes it that much more heartbreaking. Oh man, I can't wait. I can't wait for the world to know Joel Miller is the villain, and we all understand why he did it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you made it this far, thank you. And I mean, hey, if you've had, what is it, an hour of content, why not give us a like, comment down below, subscribe, be one of those 3 people to hit us over 400. Well, gentlemen, and Liaren, who has passed, RIP to the fallen, it was a pleasure hosting this podcast with you this week. Where can people catch you? Where can people find you in the interim between episodes? Shout out your socials. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, you can find me everywhere at AlecBobco. And just here on Shared Screens. Just pop up on podcasts everywhere.
Hell yeah. Brett, what about yourself?
You can find me in the commune.
Yeah, communist. You don't want to shout out your Twitch? Nothing? Just follow him at Jim Tasty on Twitch. I'm trying to give him free promotion. God damn it, Brett. All right, ladies and gentlemen, and non-binary folk, until next week, have a fantastic time. We'll see you next time. God, fuck you.